Yes, welcome back to my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, where we're joined today for episode number 7 and round number 7 for the Austrian Grand Prix. If you're new around here though, we've created a team which we manage, drive and race in with the ultimate goal of winning the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship each season. So before you do anything else, be sure to watch the previous episode where we were racing in the French Grand Prix, and to continue watching my journey as the drama unfolds this season, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below as well. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video, and we rejoin with an email that's been sent to us recapping what happened last race. Sadly, there wasn't anything else our mechanics could do during the race, and that meant our MG UK unit blew up on us, meaning that we had to retire from the French Grand Prix. I thought at the time it was actually our gearbox, as it was at 77%, but in fact it was actually our MG UK unit that blew up, and our gearbox is still currently fine. Somehow, as we were having so many gear issues, I think at one point our second gear went for us. We just had no second gear, so we were having to miss a gear as we went from first to third, and that meant we were just losing loads of time on our opponents. Nevertheless, we're now back at our HQ, and we're able to fix these problems in between races and crucially before Austria. And meanwhile, whilst we're at it, we're able to change our gearbox without any penalty, and we're actually going to mix a few things up and spice up our car slightly, as I wasn't happy and our sponsors wasn't happy. So we're changing the Duotone's main sponsor to a light cyan blue that coordinates with our team colours, so doesn't so easily blend into the white. And for a final touch, we're able to add our newly acquired second sponsor to our car, the Utep sponsor. So we're adding that to our front wing and various other parts of our car. And now we're feeling fresh and ready to get into qualifying with our freshly new parts added to the car and a fresh, newly designed livery. We set our first lap time around the Red Bull ring, a 105.2, which puts us provisional P9 in before some other cars make their first lap. But you know, I'm feeling good about this race. I'm feeling excited to see what it has to offer. But as some time passes, we're now down in P18 with a teammate just behind us in P20. So there is some hard work and catching up to be done if we stand any chance of getting into that second qualifying round. You know, it's not all plain sailing from here on out now that we've had a few good races behind our back, and finishing in the points recently. We still need to be getting in those qualifying positions to be able to elevate us up into those points. So yeah, some hard work and some graveyard shifts need to be done as we set 2 red sectors going against what we've just said. That's something we didn't want. We're now 3 attempts down on our first lap time, and we need to be doing more. We can't just be settling for this. But I think this circuit is really testing the limits of our car and the limits of my driving ability, as we're now onto lap 4 in Q1, and that's a place you don't want to be. You want to be setting these good lap times in early that will just send it into these qualifying sessions. But unfortunately for us, that hasn't happened today around the circuit, and we're sat in P16. That was a better lap though than our first one, so it's improvements, but we just still haven't found our groove. And I don't know whether it's the car setup or just myself not being very good at this racetrack, but yes, something just hasn't clicked for us today, and ultimately that's led to us being kicked out of Q1. We sat in P18 for the race, our teammate in P19, and that's all our efforts can muster up for this Grand Prix. I said earlier on that we can't just expect to be getting into Q2 every single time now. We have to still put an effort in to get there with the car we've got, and that's what's happened in today's race. We sat back and been kicked out, but that's no excuse for failure. We still got an opportunity in the race, so let's get down to Sunday and hope for the best in this Austrian Grand Prix.
This is it then, race day in Spielberg for this year's Austrian Grand Prix. Not long to go before our drivers hurtle off the line and into the first turn, the Niki Lauda curve, as it was renamed in 2019 in memory of one of Formula One's most beloved figures. The Spielberg circuit then is situated 700 metres above sea level, with just 10 corners making up one of the shortest laps of the season. One time around here is a distance of 2.6 miles, with the best overtaking chances into turn 1 or the tight uphill turn 3. And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. Let me ask you about Aston Martin. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Ricciardo. They've taken a grid penalty. Vettel, Stroll, Leclerc, and Pierre Gasly. Sainz, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Raikkonen, Yuki Tsunoda, and Giovinazzi. Fernando Alonso, they've taken a grid penalty. Charles, Felipe Drugovich, and Esteban Ocon. Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, Latifi, and George Russell ends our grid lineup. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So with Schumacher and Ocon both taking grid penalties, that means that myself and Drugovich both get bumped up a couple of positions in today's race, which will help us a lot to move through the field at the beginning of the race and hopefully aim to get some points out of, well, virtually nothing basically. But nevertheless, we're going to go onto the two-stop with the two soft tyres first and then onto the mediums, and hopefully that will be the best strategy for today. No chance of rain today, so hopefully it's just going to be some good, clean, fair racing with no dodgy, risky strategies going on. But 5 red lights we now go for the Austrian Grand Prix, and we're underway. It's a good start initially as we roll through the first and second gears, but then we get bogged down as we move into the later gears. Going into turn 1, we make a little dive bomb on Giovinazzi as Alonso finds the pace round the outside, but it's Bottas that leads the way and the championship, with Lewis Hamilton right behind him, both in the race and in the standings, as the McLarens and the Red Bulls are dotted behind them. Going into turn 3, we have another look on Giovinazzi, going to the inside this time. We find the room and make the move work, and now we are on the back of Alonso trying to find power on the inside of that curb, but he's got the better racing line down this straight, so there's no chance we're going to have a go at him. But maybe down the inside we go into turn 4, and we time that to perfection. If not, we would have gone straight into the back of Carlos Sainz there. But regardless, Alonso should have done a better job at defending that corner. He just left it open, wide open for me to come through, find the slipstream and get past him easily. And now maybe we can get a bit more comfortable in this P14 position, but maybe with a lapse of concentration we may just end up losing that position to Fernando, who's hot on our tail, and he's going down the inside. We have to cut across him to defend that penultimate corner, and even though we do go briefly wide for a moment there, we do get hold of this position, and we can now look onto the back of the Ferrari man. 2 laps later though, as we get a foothold in this race, we're now on to lap 3, and Carlos Sainz has managed to break away from myself. He's now 1.5 seconds away and chasing after Kimi Raikkonen, and now there's yellow flags just up ahead as Fernando Alonso makes the opportunist move down the inside, but we managed to stay ahead just for the yellow flags, and Lando Norris is there parked up on the side of the track. He's retired from the race, and we just about managed to stay ahead of the Alpine man going into those yellow flags crucially. Otherwise we would have had to back out of that challenge and concede position to Alonso, because obviously during a yellow flag or during the yellow flag marked area you cannot overtake, and I would have had to concede position because I would have been the one overtaken. But because I was just ahead of him, we managed to keep that position. But just for how long, I wonder, as he makes the darting move down the inside to the penultimate corner. He tried to make the same move on me in the first lap, and this time he can make that move stick. Looking back at what happened to Lando Norris now, and he goes into turn 3 and just loses all power to his engine, and that's the end of the race for the McLaren man. Now we rejoin the race on to lap 8, and we're still behind Alonso, chasing after the Alpine man as we set a purple for sector 1, and I think we set a purple sector 1 last lap out as well. So on the high speed straights our car certainly isn't doing too bad, but I think it's just as we get into the sector 2, the windy section of the track, and it's just struggling a bit to keep up with the faster cars and the more nimble cars going around the bends. But most importantly though, we're not losing any time to the cars behind. We're sticking with Alonso Fernando and myself, and even Giovinazzi behind us actually, we're all going for points here today, and we're chasing after the Alfa Romeo man of Raikkonen, who has been caught by Sainz in the last couple of laps, and we are now chasing after the Finn. As you can see as well, I'm certainly not feeling any sort of tyre wear to this track at the moment, as we set a purple sector 1, a green sector 2, and a red sector 3, but nevertheless these softs have felt very, very good round the circuit, and I'm excited to go on to a fresh pair very soon.
Just a bit further on up the road now, however, and Alonso got a great exit off turn 1, and he's got the slipstream on Raikkonen going into turn 3, makes a dive bomb round the outside. Can he get the move done? He holds up myself and Raikkonen in the process, and Kimi is still there going side by side down the DRS, second DRS straight, DRS for myself and Alonso, but the Alfa Romeo's got the raw pace. But now can we make this double overtake down the inside, make contact with Alonso, and I think we come away unscathed, luckily. It certainly wasn't the cleanest of overtakes from us, but we come away from that manoeuvre with the position. The same can't be said for Fernando Alonso, who's down in P14 behind Raikkonen now, the guy who he tries to overtake, and now Raikkonen is having a go at us after we set a bad lap time. He's down the inside of turn 3 again, but this time we have a better racing line and get the power down early. We had to be sure to leave the room there for Kimi, otherwise that would have ended with an accident. We purposely went wide on that turn 3 corner to give him the room, and we managed to make that move with some clean and fair racing. But now it is time for the pit stops. We shredded these soft compound of tyres, and we need to go onto a fresh pair now. The cars ahead of me, Tsunoda and Sainz, are both as we just about slow the car down enough. But yeah, like I was saying, the cars ahead of me, Tsunoda and Sainz, are both in for their pit stop. We come in for ours, and it is a speedy pit stop from our pit crew. 2.1 seconds, that will do us nicely in the grand scheme of things. Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen are both going longer on their tyres, so it's going to be a long stint from them. Maybe they're trying to do a one stop here in Austria, but nevertheless we are doing the 2 stop, and now it's lap 13 and Alonso is in, so he's gone longer on those tyres, and we've just zoomed past him. He's had no chance of jumping us with that pit stop when we're on a soft pair of tyres, and these ones are going like lightning fast round Austria. They're doing us wonders here, and now is our opportunity to try and catch his teammate Esteban Ocon, who's on the hard compound of tyres, so we surely should be able to catch him within a few laps. And that's exactly what we've done here. Ocon, who started on the hards, has now finally come into the pits on lap 15, and we are now up into P14, so we're getting ever closer to those precious points. However, we have to remember that we are doing the 2 stop here round Austria, so we need to be faster than all the other cars on the track if we are to make this work. But as we enter sector 2 on lap 15, there's a car behind us who's got yellow flags, and it's our teammate Felipe Drugovich, who's out of this Grand Prix, and he's parked up in the same place as Lando Norris did, and that's another DNF this season for our teammate. So there must be something going wrong on the other side of the garage in terms of reliability issues. But just further on in the lap, Gasly goes into the back of Giovinazzi. He must have just not been concentrating just then, leading up to the penultimate corner. Giovinazzi was going slow to go into the pits, clearly showing he was in the pit lane, and Gasly just went to cut the corner and try and get some time on the cars behind him. Leclerc, Tsunoda, Sainz, they're all but close behind him, and now he's just caused an issue for himself here. And now Pierre has got a great job on his hand of defending against the 4 drivers behind him, and myself, you could see coming up in the background of that shot as he lets his teammate through. So that's some good sportsmanship between the 2 AlphaTauri drivers, and now Gasly has the opportunity to redeem himself from the error he made and redeem the faith that his team has put in him by acting as a mobile chicane here in Austria. And so far so good. He's managed to go half a lap round the Red Bull ring as we go so close to the back end of Vettel, and now we are on the back of the 2 Aston Martins and the Ferraris. We're right in the thick of it now as we get past both of them. We have a 6-way battle on our hands for P7. We're now on the back, getting slipstream of Gasly, and he goes into the pits, and we make contact with Stroll. We go into the racing line of Stroll to avoid the collision with Gasly. We tried our very best not to do a repeat of what just happened on the previous lap to Gasly, so we narrowly avoid the AlphaTauri man going to the left of him. In turn, we go into the course of Lance Stroll, who's also racing us Gasly and Leclerc ahead of us, and from what you can see from Lance Stroll's point of view, he clearly makes damage with my back end, and we just had nowhere to go in that situation. So that may have been slightly my fault, but I think the stewards have favoured me in this situation. They haven't given me any sort of time penalty, which is a blessing, and I think it's just gone down as a racing incident. If anything, it's probably more Pierre's fault for not acknowledging that he was the slower driver in that scenario and not pulling over to the side of the track earlier to allow the racing to continue. But nevertheless, we stay ahead with the advantage, and we're on the back of Leclerc, chasing after the Ferrari man and hoping we can stick with him in this race and maybe salvage some points here from a dismal qualifying session. But on to the next lap now, and we're really struggling to find our pace around this circuit. It's really proven to be a test for our car and really showing where our car stands with the other cars as we get spun round by Sebastian Vettel. The Aston Martin man makes contact with our back end, and that spun us round and ruined our race. We worked so hard to reclaim those positions from the likes of Sainz and Alonso, and now that's all been undone by that spin. So we decided to come into the pits for our second pit stop. These tyres must be overheated, so there's no use of carrying on these tyres. I already felt the tyre wear going, and here's a little replay of what happened from Sebastian Vettel's point of view. Maybe that's payback for what happened to Lance Stroll, I don't know. But regardless, we now come into the pits for our pit stop onto these mediums, and we are now joined onto lap 21 with Gasly, who's just gone ahead of us, Stroll just behind us. So maybe we can salvage something from this race, possibly. But we now have an uphill battle on our hands as we're joined with the two fallen soldiers at that same corner, Stroll and Gasly. So maybe we can work together to get back into the points. There's still 13 laps left in this race, so anything is possible, as there's a few people coming into the pits now. Latifi, Schumacher, some of the back markers who have yet to make the final pit stop. Sainz is in as well, but he joins the racetrack just ahead of me, so we're now onto the back of Sainz. The red blur that we saw as we went spinning out of this Grand Prix, we're now sat right behind him once again in this race, and hopefully we can make something of this opportunity. Lap 26, and we are still struggling in this racetrack, trying to find our groove as Stroll is now on our tail. He's going round the outside into turn 1. He's got the lead going into turn 1. We make a dive bomb that sends us wide into turn 1, and now we're joined with Alonso, who's just made his pit stop onto his final set of soft tyres. And right now, it's now or never for us. We have to make the move round the outside, trying to find our way through the Alpine man, and we just can't do it. Fernando Alonso has the grip, he has the tyres, he has the better tyres for this racetrack, and we're not going to be able to get him on this occasion. We're going to have to settle for P14 in this race, but that's only if Lance Stroll doesn't have anything to say about it. The man who we incidentally ruined their race round that same corner we just went round, and as you can see on screen, we should have played the same cards as Fernando Alonso. He's off on his bike, he's not even on the top left leaderboard, and now Stroll has the opportunity to go round the outside. We cut him off, going off track as we misjudged the braking zone. Lance Stroll must hate us right now. We somehow gained an advantage by going off the track, and the stewards, they're loving us at the moment. They're not giving us any penalties. So one of our team members must have slipped them something before the start of the race, because something is dodgy is going on here. 2 laps to the finish now, and can we survive? Can we hold on for this P14 position? It's not to do with any points, but it's just for our pride, our integrity in this race. On the final lap now, and Stroll is still there. Lewis Hamilton crosses the line, almost lapping us in the process, and he takes the victory from Valtteri Bottas, who qualified first. But now Stroll makes a desperate lunge up the inside. We're battling him, we're making contact with him. It's a desperate attempt for this P14 position. He's now tailing us, going weaving left, weaving right. He's going round the outside this time into turn 4. We keep our foot in the door and somehow manage to hold on to this P14 position with only a handful of corners left in this race. I think we've got this in the bag from here on out. We just have to hang on. Our tyres are screaming out. You can clearly see the front tyres have taken a beating here in Austria today, but it's going to be Lewis Hamilton's day. The Mercedes man wins it once again, and that's going to make a dent in Bottas's championship fight. But for us, it is going to be P14, and it's not been a great day at the office for us, but more so, it's not been a great relationship with Aston Martin today. We've been having some amazing fights with them today, some dodgy ones as well, but somehow we managed to come on top of the Canadian man. However, Sebastian Vettel does get the better of us in today's race.
So, another fantastic victory for the Silver Arrows. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today and the results speak for themselves.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
So it's Mercedes Day once again, and Fernando Alonso picks up driver of the day, well deservedly, as of course he was down in P13 as he came out of his second and final pit stop, and he's managed to finish in P8, which is an astonishing job by the Spaniard and well deserved of driver of the day. But at the top of the table, Hamilton finishes top with the fastest lap, and Bottas comes home in P2. So Mercedes win once again, with Daniel Ricciardo finishing in third place ahead of both the Red Bulls. So on a day when Lando Norris retires from the race, the McLaren man steps up to the mark and finishes with a podium. Small victories for us as well, as Sebastian Vettel finishes outside the points. The man who spun us earlier on in the race probably gets what he deserves and finishes with no points today, as the same goes for us as well. Shogs GP finishes with 0 points here in Austria today, as my teammate also DNFs from this race. So not great news for the team as well. Only some minor changes in the standings, as Lewis Hamilton goes top of the championship, 3 points ahead of his main rival Valtteri Bottas, who must be kicking himself that he hasn't taken this opportunity to go further ahead in the championship. Ferrari also go ahead of Aston Martin, who failed to get points here today, and apart from that, no real changes in the constructors. But that will be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, and if you want more weekly F1 content, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below.